If you find that you get really upset when things don't go your way, or at least how you think they should, then this talk is going to be really helpful for you. If you find that you often say things like always, or never, or awful, or terrible, or worst, or everyone, or everything, or all the time, or nobody, or nothing. For example, my partner always leaves messes, or you never think about anyone but yourself, or I messed that up. I am an awful human, or these plans got canceled. This is terrible. Or my boss is the absolute worst communicator. Or everyone is against me. Or everything always goes wrong for me. Or my sister made a rude comment about my new job. She does this all the time. Or nobody really cares about me. Or nothing ever works out for me. Then this talk is going to be really helpful for you. Now, you may not fully notice that you say these things, or maybe you're like, yep, I totally find myself saying that. And if you think back to the last time that something happened that was difficult or disappointing or upsetting, that you probably used one of these words to describe the situation. If you noticed yourself feeling upset about something or emotionally triggered by something that happened, you probably, if you paid attention or remembered back to it, noticed that you used one of these more extreme terms when describing it or thinking about it. So today we're going to talk about this type of black and white or all or nothing thinking. And we're going to learn how to think differently so that we can have different reactions to things and then ultimately feel differently. Yeah? But before that, if you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. If you're back again, always good to have you. Special shout out to my shifters. Always good to see you here. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. The button's about right down there. Like the video if you get something out of it. That would be amazing. Either way, my name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of my incredible membership community, the Shift Society, where we are taking this work to the next level, where you are learning how to understand your deepest, biggest blocks that are keeping you stuck, keeping you down, getting in your way and holding you back, and being supported and held accountable and given tools every step of the way. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description below. I help heart-centered humans break through the crap that is holding them back so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And if you have been using these more extreme terms when you are already feeling emotional, then they are making you feel worse. And this really can get us stuck. And I know because I have definitely been there, and I still have to catch myself using these kinds of words. And it's really interesting because if you've ever noticed when you are already feeling frustrated, so you come home at the end of a long day and there is a mess in the kitchen, and you're already feeling frustrated about that because you're like, the last thing I want to do is clean up a mess. And then you go into thinking about your partner and how your partner always leaves messes and you always have to do all the cleanup and they never do anything. And then you go from feeling kind of, annoyed that there's a mess that has to be dealt with to now feeling like full on rage and anger towards this person because you've told yourself this always happens. They never clean up after themselves and get all kinds of angry like that. Or let's say your boss comes to you at the end of the day and is like, hey, I need this proposal put together by first thing tomorrow morning. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the day. I need to get going. I don't want to spend my whole night working. They should have told me before. They are the worst communicator. They are the worst manager. They don't know what they're doing. And you've gone from feeling kind of frustrated that you're going to have to spend some time in your evening doing work when that's not what you wanted to do, to now being that much more angry because you've now painted your boss as this like pretty terrible, incompetent person. And so now you're feeling even more angry that you have to work for someone like this. Or let's say that you invite friends out, or you call a friend, invite them out to do something, and they say that they have plans. And then you call another friend and you're like, trying to get them to do something and invite them out for something fun, and they can't make it. And then you call someone else and they also are busy. And you're like, man, like no one likes me. No one cares about me. I am so alone and I don't have anyone in my life. So you've gone from feeling disappointed because people have other plans at the last minute to now telling yourself that it's because no one likes you, no one cares about you, you don't actually have any real friends, and now you've gone from feeling disappointed to feeling even worse about this. So really looking at all of these things and noticing how we have something that happens that is upsetting or discouraging or disappointing, and instead of just acknowledging this as, man, this sucks, this is not what I wanted, this is not the outcome I was expecting, this is not the way I anticipated this would go, to now feeling horrible in some way towards someone, either someone else or yourself, because you have made these all or nothing statements. So it really exaggerates the situation and judges the situation or the person as always or never or awful or terrible, or yourself as any of those things as well. But here's the thing. We like this kind of black and white thinking because it helps to confirm how we're feeling. If I am already feeling bad, our human brains do this really interesting thing where they kind of like to kick us when we're down. Where we're like, I already feel bad, and now I'm going to come up with all of these other reasons to make myself feel even worse by using these big overarching statements. And it's kind of like that misery likes company. We in our misery like the company of making ourselves feel more miserable. And it can also be because when things go wrong, we like to make these big blanket statements so that we can blame someone else. So we can be like, well, they're always like this. They always do this. You know, they're just awful, or they're incompetent, or, you know, like they don't know what they're doing ever. And we like to kind of say that because it kind of deflects that responsibility, and we get to create a villain in the situation. Or we turn it against ourselves, and we like to kind of revel, for some odd reason, in our own self-pity. Nobody ever is there for me. I can't do anything right. I fail all the time. I'm so alone and no one cares. Right? And we like to kind of like massage our own self-pity and our own feelings. Maybe it's just feelings of sadness and disappointment that we're turning into self-pity and getting ourselves stuck in that cycle of that black and white or all or nothing thinking. And quite frankly, it's almost easier, which is why we do it. It is so much easier to just be like, well, this sucked. Well, everything sucks. Or this person sucked at this. Well, they suck at everything. And it's so much easier to let ourselves kind of just sit in that instead of taking a step back and really looking at responsibly at the full picture. Really being able to say, you know what, my boss did give me this assignment, this project proposal or to do at the end of the day, and that sucks, and that was poor planning on their part, but they've also been really great at some other things, or they were really helpful with me last week when I was stuck on something, or you know what, this has happened before, but it hasn't happened in a little while, and you know, maybe it's just a matter of having a conversation with them and reminding them that like, hey, if you have something for me, please ask me at the beginning of the day instead of the end of the day, because I need time for that. And my evening time is really precious to me, and I like to spend that with my family or doing my own thing and having time to rejuvenate for the next day, or just to participate in leisure in my life, to do something fun. And so just having that conversation, but if we tell ourselves, well, this person is terrible, they're terrible at managing people, they don't know what they're doing, they're so irresponsible, they're such a bad communicator, then there's nowhere to go from there because we've just painted them as something and we've just created them as the villain and us as the victim, and that's the end of the story. Instead of being like, hey, you know what? They're human. This wasn't the best. Maybe we need to have a conversation, or, this doesn't happen very often, so I'm going to let this one slide. But if it happens again, I'm going to address it. Or let's say that your sister made a rude comment about your new job and you say to yourself, well, she does this all the time. She's so mean. But does she? Does she always make rude comments about everything that you do? Or maybe is it that she's kind of feeling a bit triggered because you got a new great job and it's bringing up her own kind of jealousy, or maybe she's skeptical and doesn't really understand the industry that you're going into and has some concerns about it, and so those concerns came out as criticism. Maybe she's having a bad day and took it out on you. But if you paint her as like, oh, she always does stuff like this, then again, villain, victim. Instead of being like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to talk to her and I'm just going to say, you know what, like that comment, it felt kind of hurtful. I'm really excited about this new job. And if you have some concerns, share them with me. But like being critical or judgmental, that doesn't feel good. So please don't. And being able to just work with something. So looking at this again, I had something that happened to me a couple of years ago, where I had invited a friend to go on this amazing vacation together. And, I thought it was like this incredible invitation and it was going to be this really great thing, this really special time for us to spend together. And when I presented it to her, it kind of fell flat. I was expecting her to be super excited to, share in my enthusiasm. I'd been spending kind of days thinking about it and planning it all and thinking about the time we were going to spend together and how this was going to be so great for us and how much I was looking forward to having girlfriend time. And I presented to her and she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to see. And what did my brain do in that moment? It went into that all or nothing thinking. She never wants to do anything. She doesn't really care about me. Why do I even bother? I care about more than she cares about me. This was this great thing and she can't even be excited about that. And then my brain went to, no one really even cares about me that much. And, stuff like this always happens. And I'm happy to say that I have done some work since then to clear up those cloudy thoughts, to clear up that mess, because none of that is true. And maybe you've had this happen too, where something has happened and you've created this whole story about it because someone didn't give you the reaction that you were hoping they would. And fair enough. I was excited about it. I wanted her to be excited too. But fair enough on her part. I had just sort of put this kind of big thing in front of her that I had all this time to think about and prepare for and mentally get my head around, but she hadn't. I just kind of plopped it in front of her and she was like, okay, I just need a minute to wrap my head around this vacation that you have, this big idea that we should take together. And fair enough that she needed time. Fair enough that I was excited and I wanted her to be excited. And fair enough that she wasn't initially excited because she needed time to catch up to where I was. But isn't it interesting how we don't think like that in the moment? Our dramatic brains just go into creating even more drama. Instead of me just being disappointed because I didn't get the reaction that I wanted, and maybe considering reasonable explanations as to why, like, she didn't know, she had a lot of other things going on at the time. She didn't know where they were where things were financially. She didn't know how her partner was going to feel about her going away. Like, there's just some other things going on that had nothing to do with my lovability as a human being. But interesting that my brain went there. And so really paying attention to that. When are you creating or letting your brain create a bunch of unnecessary drama around things instead of just acknowledging how you are feeling and then acknowledging the thoughts that are coming up that are creating all the drama and realizing that these are not necessarily truths, they are just thoughts based on these emotions that are coming up. And my brain wants to confirm the emotions that I'm feeling by, for some reason, creating even more dramatic emotions around them. So what do we do when this happens? When you notice yourself having an emotional reaction to something, you're feeling discouraged, defeated, disappointed, angry, hurt, upset, and your brain is wanting to go into this always or never or worst or terrible or all the time. First of all, take a breath. Calm down that emotional reaction part of your brain, that amygdala part of it. Just take a minute to get the ground underneath your feet again. Just notice what is coming up for you and identify the feeling for what it is. I am feeling disappointed. I am feeling discouraged. If you say something like, I feel like they always do this, that's not a feeling. If you say like, after you say, I feel like, that is not a feeling. That is a thought. That is a perception. That is a perspective. Feeling statements have 3 words. I feel hurt. 3 words. So really just acknowledging what is the root feeling that's coming up here. And then going into the nuance. So instead of letting your brain go into the extremes, going into the nuance of it and being able to say, I'm feeling hurt because I didn't get the reaction that I wanted. So identifying what the feeling is, and then just notice some of the thoughts that are going through your brain. The thoughts of, they always do this, they never do this, this is the worst, I am terrible. And just notice those thoughts and take a second just to ask yourself, is this a thought that is coming up because I'm having a big emotion right now, or is this a truth? So quite simply asking yourself, is this a thought or is this a truth? And I'm going to guarantee that it is a thought and not a whole truth. So once you identify that it's a thought and not a truth, being able to take a step back, zoom back, look at the bigger picture and look for the nuance. Look for those shades of gray. Try to understand things from someone else's perspective. Try to cut yourself some slack. Try to cut other people some slack. Try to not automatically assume that either you are terrible or that other people are terrible. Try to see that there is other things going on outside of those automatic black and white thoughts that are coming up for you. And once you do that, you will notice that as you kind of see things in a bigger picture, you are automatically going to feel more calm. You are going to feel less reactive. You are going to understand the situation in likely a more accurate or, in the very least, responsible way. And then you're going to be able to figure out what to do, how to address it, how to deal with it. That's not kind of coming from these charged emotions where then you end up saying something to someone else that you end up regretting because you've all of a sudden painted them or the circumstance or whatever it is in this very kind of terrible light. And then you're feeling all kinds of reactive to it. Take a step back, find the ground underneath your feet, identify what you're feeling. Really kind of looking at those thoughts, asking yourself if they're thoughts or if they're truths, and then considering alternate perspectives, alternate nuances as to what's going on in this circumstance, and then decide mindfully and intentionally how you want to handle it. If you tend to find yourself getting emotionally reactive pretty easily, a great place to start is with my free 10-minute guided mindfulness exercise. It's in the description below. You can grab that right now, download it, plug it into your ears, start listening to it when you're feeling okay, and listen to it when you're feeling not so okay. And it's going to be helpful for both. So you can listen to it right now. It is right down there. If you want to be doing the deeper work to get in there and heal some of those wounds, to be able to learn where your triggers are, what's triggering them, and then how to smooth out those triggers so that you can feel more calm and confident and assured every single day in every single way, then make sure that you get on the wait list for the Shift Society so that you can get in there, do this deeper work when we open up registration again. Let me know what connected with you. As always, it is so good to have you here. Take good care of yourself and take good care of those around you. Bye for now.